Hi, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. Today I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about the area of Christies Beach. I don't know if you're from Adelaide or not, or if you're not, you probably don't know where I'm talking about, but if you are from Adelaide, you probably know, if you're not from down south, you might have heard of the area before, but you know it's down south end of town, which is, so what I thought I'd go through is the reason why I thought I'd chat about Christies Beach is because a lot of people have been talking about Christies Beach is a nice place to invest. Great potential for capital gains, undervalued, all that sort of stuff. Thanks for the like. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining me. And so for many years now, I've been hearing people talk about Christies Beach, and I've been just looking at property investing magazines. They've been talking about Christies Beach as a place to look at. So I thought I'd go through a bit more detail tonight and have a look at what's been happening over the last few years down at Christies Beach, and then trying to decide, okay, well, have we missed the boat, or is now the time to get on board? Hey, Taryn, thanks for joining. So let's have a bit of an understanding of Christies Beach. So basically, Christies Beach it's about 3 square kilometres. So I'll just apologise in advance. I'm just going to have to look at my computer as we go through this stuff. So I'm going to be looking down a bit. So there's 10 parks covering around about 11% of the area. So that means, it's a pretty nice area, basically. Lots of parks. It's relatively close. It's pretty close to the beach, obviously, as the name sounds. So generally, what for properties, as far as what holds value, is usually close to the city and close to the beach. Distance-wise from the city, it is around about 24 k's from the city, which for some of you in the eastern states or someone that lives in the country, it's not too far. But in Adelaide, that's probably pushing the distance. In Adelaide, everyone wants to drive for about half an hour to get to the city. So at 25 k's from the city, that's probably about half an hour or so outside of peak hour to get to the city. So in Adelaide, that is, that's pretty much your average sort of distance that your average person in Adelaide would live from the city, distance-wise. So we'd probably be expecting, because it's average as far as distance from the city, we'd probably be expecting it to be around about the median house price. Remember, the median house price in Adelaide's around about $430,000. So that means we'd probably expect, Christies Beach should be valued around about the median house price, and particularly because it's on a beach area, we're like, well, if it's near a beach and it's, closer, average sort of distance from the city, so you'd probably be expected to be more than the average house price, I would suspect. So interesting to note then, the median house price in Christies Beach is around about $340,000, and that's probably one of the reasons why so many people are pointing out Christies Beach as an area that potentially could be undervalued, because of the factor it's close to the beach and it's relatively close to the city, or it's probably your average distance from the city. So at $340,000 for median house price, you'd probably say, well, maybe that is undervalued. Then I look back in previous months. Remember, the median house price is the middle price that the house is sold for, and each month that's going to be different. So last month it was 340, then it was 336, and 382, then 315, then 292, then 347. So what I like to do is I like to look at the average of all the medians. I think that's a pretty good guide to work out where the median house price is. And looking at it probably is around about 330, 340 mark. So 340 is probably a fairly good representation of what houses are selling for in the Christies Beach area. So that's probably what it's worth. At the end of the day, what a suburb's worth is what people are willing to pay for it. So the question then is the market not necessarily representing the true value of what the property could be worth in the future? Or likewise, is the market overvalued or undervalued relative to where the economic indicators would point out? So if we delve into a bit more detail, so looking at suburb areas in the Onkaparinga Council, which is quite a big council area as far as Adelaide goes. So it covers a lot of the southern areas of Adelaide. It also is quite active in promoting development. So there is opportunities within the Onkaparinga area, but also within the Christies Beach areas for developments. And particularly because the prices are relatively inexpensive, $340 for a median house price, you could probably buy a property and knock it down and subdivide. And for your average person trying to get into a development at that sort of price is quite reasonable, I suppose. So it does give you the opportunity to do developments. Again, what you've got to be thinking about down the track is someone going to buy it at the end of the subdivision, and is it going to be worth your while profitability wise? So that's the thing. It's great to say, hey, I'm buying it for a good price, and it's great to say how I can develop it. But the question is, what can I actually sell it for? Because it's not about whether you can subdivide, it's whether you should subdivide. And whether you should subdivide is firstly based on what you're paying for it, but also the costs and all the opportunities as far as development goes, but also what are you going to be able to sell it for? So that's probably the thing that's debatable, I suppose, in Christies Beach. Is there the demand to soak up all that supply if there was quite a few developments to happen down that area? So So as I mentioned before, it's about 24 k's from the city, from the general post office in the city. There's about 2,000 houses in Christies Beach, so it's not a huge suburb, it's not a small suburb, it's probably around about average. We can see the sales turnover is around about 5.8%, so that's not a high turnover, it's probably about average for Adelaide. So again, everything we're looking at is showing Christies Beach is relatively average for most of the properties in Adelaide. Probably the main thing we've noticed, which the difference is probably the median house prices, where it's undervalued, I suppose. Something that's interesting, if we're looking at we talked about, if we look at the change in the, if we're looking at 5-year annual compounding growth rate for median house price, so that's basically what that's saying is, okay, what's the change every year as a percentage-wise, and then when we're looking at compounding as far as what's it increasing on top of itself, basically. So just like you're putting money in the bank, you actually get interest on top of the interest, so that's basically what it's saying. So if we're looking at a 5-year average of the growth rate, it's 0.2% is what you're getting back on your money. So if you bought a property 5 years ago, and the increase in value has been about 0.2% year on year over the last 5 years. So again, almost nothing. Basically, the prices have done almost nothing in Christies Beach over the last 5 years. So again, if you'd have been reading some of these property magazines that were telling you go and invest in Christies Beach 5 years ago, you'd be pretty disappointed, because obviously, people talk about properties doubling every 10 years. If they're doubling every 10 years, you're probably expecting a return of around about 7%. So this example, they've held it for 5 years, has done almost nothing. Hey John, thanks for joining, and thanks for the like there. If anyone likes what I have to say, then click on the like button. If you haven't liked what I have to say, then click on the like button too, because I really appreciate it. So yeah, if we're looking at the last 5 years, so almost nothing is done. Hey Chris, thanks for joining. Yes, it is a bit later tonight. I've had things to do, so sorry about that. People have been waiting up for the excitement of me talking. So over the last 10 years, compounding growth rates around about 5%. Over the last 20 years, it's come in about 7.8%. So you can see what he talked about, doubling in value every 10 years. If you're looking at Christies Beach over the last 20 years, it has increased about 7.8%. So that's the whole doubling in value every 10 years. It fits in pretty well. But if you look over the last 5 years, it's only gone up by 0.2% year on year. So issue then, as you can see, that would probably be, if you expect that over the last 20 years, that's a pretty good sign of what it would do over the next 5, 10, 20 years as well, then you probably could say, you can imagine it's probably a bit undervalued, because it's done nothing essentially for the last 5 years. If we want to stick with that average growth, the doubling in value every 10 years, then we're expecting a bit of a kickstart what's going to happen in the Christies Beach area. So, but again, the past historical indicators don't necessarily indicate what's going to happen in the future. But again, if you look at what's happened in Adelaide over the last 5 years in itself, it's almost done not very much as well. So median house prices have stayed pretty stable. So again, if you're positive on the Adelaide market, then again, you'd probably be pretty positive on the Christies Beach market. And the fact that you're close to the beach and you're relatively, average distance from the city, then you'd hope there would be a bit of a kick in the market. And with the development potential down there, if you could buy a property, hang on to it, rent it out over time, and then when the market does improve, then you can develop it down the track. So it does look like there's plenty of potential down that side of town. Just seeing if there's anything else interesting that we can look at here. We've got rental side of things. The average rental yield is around about 4.8%, which, to be honest, is pretty average. 5% yield is pretty normal. So that's pretty much similar. The median age is around about 40. Most of the people are, well, the average gross weekly income is around about $800 a week. So again, about $50,000 a year, which is probably pretty average as far as average Adelaide goes for the income wise. So this is what you can see here with Christies Beach. Everything is pretty much average except for the median house price, which is around that 340 mark. So if we're saying everything's pretty average, it's close to the beach, that means there's something out there that's causing the market to be able to hold down in that Christies Beach area. And so probably what it's worth doing is trying to investigate the suburb area a bit more detail. I suppose as far as I know there's some things about Christies Beach that probably need some work on. It is pretty much a lower socio-economic area. There is a bit more development, what they call gentrification, making the area a bit nicer over time that was probably expected. So if you look at an area that's potential opportunities just purely based on the numbers, it looks like it is a little bit undervalued. We know there's the council are positive towards development in the area, and so really it's just a matter of just getting into the suburb and trying to understand it in a little bit more detail, trying to understand why it is undervalued, and then, you know, just at the end of the day, it's all about the numbers. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. So look for a property that you think you can buy. Maybe if the situation is you're not sure whether the market's going to improve over time, then you hang on to it for a period of time and maybe develop it down the track. So hopefully it's been useful. I'll just have a little read through, see if we've got any other questions coming here. We've got the talking about that's been pretty late. They've been waiting for me. So finally, I hope it was worth the wait. And Taryn said that seemed to be out bad. Got a bad Wi-Fi. I'm pretty fine, so I don't know if it's me or you, but that's fine. We'll work it out. And John has mentioned that Melbourne is a winner. I don't know if he's talking about in the soccer or if he's talking about in the football or he's talking about property or just life in general. If you're from Adelaide, you know that no one in Melbourne's a winner. It's obviously Adelaide's the place to be, Radelaide as they call it. So. Hey Taryn, thanks for joining. Lots of smiles. So thank you. And yeah, so hopefully you found it really interesting today. If you're thinking about investing, then maybe Christies Beach is worth checking out a little bit more. And yeah, if you've got a suburb you'd like me to investigate a little bit more, feel free to give me a comment in the comment box below. If you know someone that's thinking about investing, then get out there and share this little video. And if they're thinking about investing in Christies Beach, definitely. If you've got something you'd like me to talk about, click on a comment. If you've liked what I had to say, click on the like. And I look forward to catching you again next time. Thanks, guys. See ya.